I dare put it on the book?
Oh, on Facebook?
Yeah.
I like that plan. Reach some more people.
Alright, I'll give her a shot. Probably catch a ton of hell with my coworkers. Go.
I love it.
Good morning, Pod Squad. It's another Super Saturday edition of the Victorious POD. Week 6 in the NFL is about to kick off, and just like last week, COVID-19 is threatening football again. Walters and Jack are here to cover all the big news in the Victoria's Secret Fantasy Football League this week, plus all the fantasy topics that we think you should know about. Grab your coffee and get ready. The Victorious POD starts right now.
Good morning, Pod Squad. How's it going this morning? It is another Super Saturday edition of the Victorious POD, and I'm here joined with Jack. Jack, say hello to everybody out there in YouTube land.
Hi, everybody in YouTube land.
It is bright and early this morning for sure. It is Saturday, October 17th, 2020. It is currently 7:08 a.m. in the morning, and we are coming at you live for our week 6 preview of the NFL and our fantasy football league. It's going to be a ton of fun this week. Jack, what's going on?
Oh, I'm just amazed we both woke up on time. This is a feat in itself. Excited to get to week 6 of football. Happy that we've even made it this far into the season, and we got some fun stuff to talk about coming up.
To note, I was up at 5:30 this morning, finishing up my prep for this, so not tired at all.
Oh,
I'm an early riser. It's no big deal. No big deal. Hey, I just wanted to shout out to all of our viewers, and we do have one viewer currently already. I don't even know who I want to guess it is who is up this early watching it, but I did put all of our links out to all the social media platforms, so that should be a lot of fun. So thank you to whoever who is listening and whoever is watching. I'd also like to thank Garlic Johnson. He has helped us out a ton. I appreciate him a lot. Thank you, Garlic. And I'd also like to thank Levi Oki. He is the one who created this amazing artwork that you see behind Jack and myself. If you are looking for someone to do some graphic work for you, contact Levi Oki. He is on Instagram at Levi Oki Illustrations. What happened last week, Jack? What's going on with actually let me start with this. We didn't record on Thursday. Why did we not record on Thursday?
We didn't record on Thursday because it was me and Christine's dating anniversary. So it's the last one we're gonna have until we're not dating and married. So we just went out and got some dinner and yeah.
Speaking of which, how many days until you get married?
This many. Seven more days starting
7
today.
days. Quick stress check. How's the stress level doing on that?
We're good. We met with our venue this past week and they were like, hey, cool, nothing's changed. So everything's fine as of now. And we're kind of just waiting at this point.
Right on. How many years have you and Christine been dating?
We have been together for 4 years as of a couple of days ago.
Okay, perfect. Congratulations to 4 years of dating.
Yeah.
Good luck
thank you.
Next upcoming week. The stress level might bounce up a little bit. Who knows? With COVID, you never know what's gonna happen with COVID. It's ridiculous. So I just wanted to give you guys my blessing and wish you guys nothing but the best of luck. Unfortunately, Nicole and I will not be able to attend, but we are wishing you guys nothing but the best. Speaking of my wife, we
appreciate it. Thank you.
Yesterday, we could have recorded yesterday, but it was my wife's birthday yesterday, so I just want to give a loving shout out to my wife Nicole. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful birthday.
Happy birthday!
All right, moving on. And we're gonna move right into our fan interaction zone. If you guys want to contact us, if you want to get involved with the show, please. There are multiple ways you can do it. You can either join us when we are live streaming, and you can hit us up in the chat, and we will interact with you during the chat. You can leave us a email at victoriouspod@gmail.com. You can go to our Twitter page, which is at victoriouspod, or you can go to anchor.fm, www.anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod. You can leave us a voicemail. You can also check out our podcast edition there if you don't want to do the YouTube. And if you don't want to do Anchor, you can also find us on Spotify. Also, to note, if you have ideas for like swimming upstream or any sort of like water bet, maybe you want to, anything that you want to contribute to the show, feel free to text us or just, use those avenues that I mentioned as well. Unfortunately, I don't think we have any voicemails this week. We don't have any YouTube comments. Actually, we did have a YouTube comment from like the first video weeks back saying that it was our first video. He said that we're doing really well. Keep making videos, and if we wanted to improve our audience, to click his link. So, thank you. But yeah, I haven't seen any Twitter messages, and I haven't seen any emails either. So that means we are going to move right on into our NFL bits and bytes. Jack, do we have anything to snack on this morning?
As necessary, I have some coffee this morning. Little Keurig brewed myself, and drinking out of my Ravenclaw cup here. Shout out to those of you that are in the Ravenclaw household.
Okay. I would like to think that I am somewhat being able to keep up with pop culture. Can you tell me what Ravenclaw is real quick?
It's one of the houses in Harry Potter. So okay, Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, and Slytherin.
Yes. I don't do Harry Potter as much as I do all the other sci-fi and fantasy stuff. Maybe I'm just missing out. I don't know why. Maybe it was because kids and acting just pass, except for what's that super awesome Netflix series that everybody got? Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah, I do love that one. Anyways, maybe I should give Harry Potter a shot. All right, I've also got some coffee as well. I don't have anything to snack on, but yeah, caffeine definitely needed. So there's that. Jack, what's going on this week with the NFL? What's going on around?
Yeah, so we have everybody's favorite segment, your weekly COVID update. The Patriots had another positive test. They aren't releasing who it is. I believe it was like a backup lineman. but that caused them to cancel practice yesterday. So everybody's a little worried about the Broncos and Patriots game coming up this weekend being in jeopardy. I do believe, just as of this morning, I got an announcement that they opened up their facilities. So 24 hours after a released test, which hopefully is a good sign. The game is, as of now, scheduled to play. So we'll see and keep our eyes on that one if you have any players in those games. The Colts actually reopened their facility after negative tests on Friday and Thursday, I believe. So same thing, 24 hours after they reopened it again. So kind of just holding our breath for both, but their game versus the Bengals is on track. And then lastly, Odell Beckham Jr. went home with a non-COVID illness, but due to the fact that we have like COVID regulations going on, he has to have 2 days of negative tests to be able to come back. So he actually can't return until today based on how it goes.
Does it have anything to do with what he likes to do extracurricularly, do you believe?
It could. There's no reports about that yet. We're gonna hope it's not related to personal life.
All right. Le'Veon Bell has definitely shaken up the league this week. What is going on with Le'Veon Bell?
He officially was released by the Jets earlier this week, finally getting out of the Gase grip of death. And within, I believe, 2 full days, he narrowed his choices down to the Chiefs, Bills, and Dolphins. And officially, he signed with the Chiefs yesterday or the late night before. So
Correct.
He is now going to be with the Chiefs, joining CEH.
Yikes for CEH owners. I hope this is not the downfall, but since Le'Veon Bell, since I have drafted Le'Veon Bell, which was 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, 3 seasons ago, that was his holdout year, and he has not been good ever since. So hopefully going to the Kansas City
The Walters
Chiefs,
curse.
he goes back and he actually looks like Le'Veon Bell used to look. We'll see how that goes, though. Let's see here. We have a bunch of winless teams in the NFL, Jack. Why don't we just go through them, and why don't you do you think any of these teams have a chance to get their first win this weekend?
Yeah, so the 3 that are playing this weekend are the Atlanta Falcons, as we all know, 0-5, that have managed to blow a bunch of different leads here. We have the New York Giants, who, also have not looked great since they lost Saquon, and then the Jets at 0-5 as well. So all 3 of them are playing. The scary part is all of them actually have a chance to win, so we could kind of see some teams get off the bottom of the cellar, so to speak. Unfortunately, the Falcons are playing the Vikings, who we're lucky we're at 1-4, to be honest, so that could be, unfortunately, a bad matchup for us. And then the Giants are playing the Washington football team, who's 1-4 and nothing to write home about. They can't even figure out who their quarterback is. And lastly, the Jets are playing the Dolphins, who are 2-3. So Fitzpatrick's looked great, but between those 3 teams that they're playing, they all combined have 4 wins. So it's not like any of the undefeated teams have super tough competition. So we'll see.
Right on. Just wanted to let you know that we do have a voicemail from. Well, there's a listener. I've been informed via text that we do have a voicemail, so we will be getting into that. Sorry about that.
Excellent.
We're gonna be moving on here. Jack, what is your game of the week to watch this week?
So I'm really excited about the Browns and the Steelers coming up on Sunday. We get the rematch of the helmet gate, so to speak, with Myles Garrett ripping off Mason Rudolph's helmet and charging at him. He's gone and said it's going to be a really, really clean game. I can't wait, but I feel like every time these AFC North division games are always like slugfest and old school football. So I feel like there's going to be some fights in here. They do have Big Ben back this time, so the Steelers are going to look very, very different. And then just with the Browns being a surprise 4-1, I don't think a lot of people expected that. So excited to watch and see if they can continue to be for real. I don't think they're going to beat the Steelers because the Steelers have an elite defense, but just excited to see kind of what they're going to continue to look like. And then with 2 athletic running backs and really explosive wide receiver course, I'm excited to watch the matchup.
Do you have a favorite in this game? Like, would you want to pick the Browns or the Steelers in this game?
I'll probably pick the Steelers just because they have that much better of a defense, and Big Ben's a better quarterback than Baker. I think wide receivers is at least a watch, if not the Steelers. But I think their defense is just going to shut down the Browns a little bit better.
Okay, right on. All right, and what is your game of the week to avoid?
As I just mentioned before, one of the games with the losing teams, Washington versus the New York Giants, they're combined 1-9. There's not a whole lot of fantasy relevant players in this game, so I don't think a whole lot of people need to be watching it. It's kind of a battle for the mediocre division in the NFC East with Washington, who's only currently one game out of first. So literally they could win this game and be 2-4 and be tied for first in their division, which is just gross. So trying to avoid that.
Yeah. It's gonna be some, as they like to call it, Thursday night slop on a Sunday. All right, we're gonna be moving on here. We are gonna be moving on to the Vikings. The Vikings this last week played Seattle in a heartbreak of a loss. Minnesota had 26 and Seattle had 27 points for that final drive in the DK Metcalf touchdown. I don't know about you, but I was fine until I saw, cuts of Russell Wilson fist pumping and, celebrating. And I just, out of frustration, I just went to the group chat and just said, F Russ Wilson. I love him as a player. I respect his game, but he's so douchey. Like, I can't stand him. So, Jack, now that I'm done ranting about Russ Wilson, why don't you tell me about what happened in the game?
Yeah, for those of you that watched, this game just kind of overall felt like if we had to sum up life as a Vikings fan and just boil it down to, a couple of hours or so. I mean, they always have great potential. They always seem like they're proving everybody wrong in the games they're picked to lose. They're beating a better team, so to speak. Looked great on defense, looked great on offense. We were moving the ball in all directions. And then they just kind of let us down when it counts. Like, I think I put in the group me right when we gave the ball back to Seattle, talking to somebody, and I was like, we've all seen this movie before. We all know how this is going to end. Like, even before the long drive, it just seems textbook that that's what happens against the Vikings. So very, very disappointing. Overall, getting into the specifics, Russell Wilson did have 3 touchdowns, so he continued his stat dominance, so to speak, but he kind of looked human against us for the most part in the first half, especially. Not super high passing volume. He wasn't able to do whatever he wanted. We were actually getting pressure to him and getting a few sacks, which has been rare this year. So it was good against our defense to see stopping, top end competition. But whether you like the guy or hate the guy, it was an amazing drive at the end just for him to control the clock and lead his team down. Like, that was definitely impressive looking as an outside perspective. Dalvin Cook had another great first game, but as standard with him, he got hurt finally into the year. Madison did look great in his debut, though, and I think Zimmer came out and said when they were asking him, what they're going to do differently with Madison versus Cook, and he was like, I don't have to change the playbook at all. Like, I'm confident he can come in and do the exact same thing. So good feeling to have for your backup. And then overall, just my quick 2 cents plug on the whole 4th down questionable call. I still stand by it was the right call going for it on 4th and short. I think he would have been ridiculed if we didn't go for it and we just kicked the field goal. Everyone would have just said he didn't have any guts to do it and like he can't make the big plays kind of thing. But you got to be able to trust your offense to get half a yard and fall forward. And then even if you don't, you got to be able to trust your defense to stop them from 80 yards. So I mean, like, yeah, it doesn't look great in hindsight, but our teams should have been able to get it done. And then there was a graphic showing too, like the numbers backing up his choice, where I think we were at a 94% chance to win that game. And if we would have made it, we would have had a 100% chance and it would have been over. By missing it, we only dropped to like 80%. And then with kicking the field goal, it would have still stayed at 94. So there would have been no like net gain of chance to win. So the numbers did say to go for it, and we just kind of dropped the ball.
I don't know if you listen to K-Fan a lot. I know a lot of our league members like to listen to K-Fan. And when I say a lot, I'll say, yeah, it's I would say it's less than half, but it's close to half maybe. And that last play, I don't know if you saw the close-up, the cut of Harrison Smith just mouthing, but he definitely dropped an F-bomb. But what they were saying was that Harrison Smith was kind of mouthing like, bless you, cover your effing guy, essentially is what he's saying. And they had Ben Lieber on the show go back and take a look at the I don't know if it was the all 22 or if it was the TV cut, but he essentially blamed right on the air that it was Cam Dantzler's fault for letting DK Metcalf get loose into the end zone. So it's my, going forward. Like I'm having some faith in our secondary, but there is still that one little hiccup with Cam Dantzler, and he's a rookie. I don't know what you're going to be able to expect out of
Mm-hmm.
your rookies, especially when most of your cornerbacks are either first, second year, and then the rest of your secondary is rookies, except for your safeties. But going forward, I'm starting to have a little bit of faith in that this secondary is going to be able to start shutting down some people, and I think this weekend is going to be a great test for that, which is what in the business we call a smooth transition into our next part of this. Falcons versus Vikings this weekend at noon. Jack, what do you see? What do you see in this game?
Yeah, we are at noon or at home, so that's a positive. We get a little bit more of a chance just to get into our similar rhythms. This is going to be a battle, though, of just terrible defenses. So I'm expecting like a higher scoring, probably pass focused attack with both teams. The Falcons have had a rough go of it for a few weeks now, but I think they're going to get on track against our porous secondary. And then the Vikings having Cookout, I think, forces us just to have to pass the ball a little bit more too. Curious to see what the Falcons are going to look like post Dan Quinn. So like what kind of identity they're going to have after firing their head coach. Overall, I feel like the Falcons are better than an 0-5 team. There's a couple of games they probably should have won. So they're not a team that we can really look past. So I'm waiting to see, what they come out like, because I don't think this is going to be a cakewalk for us. But I'm excited to see what Madison does, because we don't really get a chance a lot of the times to have him be like the clear-cut starter with Cookout. So should be a great game for him to be able to step up with. And overall, I'm hoping we can win this one. I'm predicting there's not going to be a lot of defense, so it'll probably be like a 30-24 situation where maybe we can actually get a stop on the 2-minute offense this time.
I think for me, this game is one of those games where you really got to get up for. It's really easy to look at a team's record and see 0-5 and just walk in thinking that you're going to have an easy week when this season has just been a struggle. So you're going to have to be able to get up and come with the energy like you did against the Seahawks. You're going to need to be able to perform at the level that you did against the Seahawks and give your running back some holes to run through. Give Kirk just that split second extra to be able to make that pass down, because this week is going to be very important to have the offense working as a whole to be able to keep up with that high-powered Atlanta offense. And that's just kind of my 2 cents on it. I don't know if you have anything to react to that. Okay.
No, I mean, I agree. I think it's one that we, like you said, we should be able to win. There shouldn't be a whole lot of issues because we can exploit what they do poorly, but it's also just, we've looked really, really good at some points in this season and really, really bad. So I don't know what to expect anymore.
Right on. We're going to move on to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Tampa Bay lost to Chicago last Thursday. Yeah, that's pretty much if you're a Bucks fan, that's what you're doing all week. I don't know if it's paper bag territory yet, but I mean, that's all right. It's one loss. Everybody has a stinker. I mean, even when the Patriots played, they always lost to the Jets or they always lost to Miami. I mean, so they're those games are always going to be there. You're going to have that embarrassing loss. So shake it off. Go again next week. Jack, what did you see out of the game?
Embarrassing loss?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Yeah. Excuse me. It was really disappointing. They were up 13-0 and they blew it. So you would hope that you'd be able to continue to hold the lead at that point, but they only scored 6 points after the middle of the second quarter. The Bears defense came up really, really big. Khalil Mack had a ton of pressure, and then Kyle Fuller, a corner, caused a fumble that set up their second touchdown, like right after they scored their first. So they kind of just had the momentum swing at that point. Overall, on the Bucs side of the ball, Brady had a really solid game, like statistically, with I think 253 and a touchdown, no interceptions, and then Ronald Jones had another 100-yard rushing game. So that was good to see, just kind of him establishing, his job on the ground. And then I know everybody talked about Brady forgetting the what down it was and holding up the 4 fingers, thinking there was one more down. So that was kind of sad. I heard Josh making fun of Brady on the Hood podcast when I was listening to it yesterday. But Josh, just for the record, he was just letting Rodgers know before their game this week how many Super Bowls he has versus how many Rodgers has, which is only one for being this great quarterback in the league. So he's just reminding everybody, just letting them know.
Well, I hope Josh hears that, because he has stated many times that he does not listen to this podcast, which is unfortunate because we have great content here. Moving on. What do you see coming up this weekend for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? They are playing Green Bay 3:25 on Sunday.
That is correct. The Battle of the Bays, Green Bay and Tampa Bay. So if by some miracle, Josh, you do listen before the weekend, or maybe if more likely if Garlic listens and then tells Josh about it, Josh, if you want to do some kind of bet on this, like just like a straight up thing, either like between podcasts or something fun, since these are kind of our teams, I mean, your team and then my player, let me know. We can make it interesting. This was my actual pick for like the game of the week to watch. I just knew we'd talk about it later, so I picked Steelers Browns for fun. But I'm excited because Brady's supposed to get Chris Godwin back finally, so he might actually have Godwin and Evans healthy at the same time. And then Rodgers gets Devontae Adams back, which isn't a good sign. It's not good for the Buccaneers, but it should be full strength offenses and both exciting. So Ronald Jones has been great, like I said, recent weeks, and then Aaron Jones is also great. So winner of this game gets to keep their status as like the number one Jones running back, maybe. Watching both defenses probably for me, because both defenses I think are underrated but good. They get a lot of pressure. So excited to see how they're going to both kind of affect the other team's all-time great quarterbacks. It's probably going to be a high scoring thing back and forth. The Packers have been putting up points like crazy, and I think the Buccaneers will just have to kind of pass a lot to keep up with them. So I'm hoping the Buccaneers win 34-30. But I'd feel a lot better if they were coming to this game at 4-1 versus 3-2, because the Packers are great. They're undefeated for a reason. So it scares me that there's a good chance the Buccaneers could drop down to 3-3.
Right on. I think it'll be a fun, high-flying game. Battle of top wideouts. I mean, you've got Godwin, you've got Evans if he plays. I'm sorry, Godwin if he plays, Evans, and then Devontae Adams. So I think it'll be a lot of fun to be able to watch all of that. All right, we're gonna be moving on to our Walters versus Jack NFL Pick'em. Jack, what happened last week?
Hanging on there. I'm 4-1, so I lost the first week, and then I've won 4 straight in a row. It was correct last week with Dallas over the Giants, but it was a very, very close one. I got nervous. They won 37-34 on a last-second field goal, but as soon as Dak went out, I was like, oh, no, I'm going to lose this game. So hung on there, and 4-1 for me. How about you?
I picked Seattle to win, and I was super, super close to having the Walters curse continue on, but we didn't. So I'm on the board officially, so there's that. So 1-4, finally. I've got some making up to do, but this week I think I know what I'm going to be doing, and that is a smooth transition. So I'm actually going to be picking up the Washington Football Club versus the New York Giants. I'm going to be picking them. We'll have to add that into the show notes, but no big deal. Who are you picking this week in our fantasy, or not in our fantasy, just in our NFL pick'em?
Yeah, I am picking Detroit over Jacksonville. It's another kind of one of the lower end teams, so I see we're both trying to get our bad team, so to speak, out of the way. Not that I necessarily believe in Detroit, but I think their offense is solid enough, especially with getting Galladay back to get past Jacksonville's lack of a defense. So Stafford's been consistent, and him and Galladay have always had a great connection. So I think I should be good there. But that being said, I expect Jacksonville to run a lot on Detroit because they have a terrible run defense, and James Robinson's getting a ton of carries. So should be interesting, but we'll see.
Right on. We are going to be moving into our fantasy outlook. This is the segment of the show where we're going to start talking some fantasy relevant players and stuff like that. And after we're done with that, then we'll be moving into our league specific stuff. So here we go with injury prone. We're kicking it off. We've got OBJ. He's got the illness. He is not allowed to come back until Saturday until he had with 2 negative tests. So hopefully that will happen today for him. DJ Shark, he is questionable. I'm not sure. All I know is he's got an ankle. Jarvis Landry is dealing with some hip and ribs. Deontay Johnson, he is questionable with his back. Darius Slayton is questionable with his foot. Melvin Gordon, illness ? Or is this going to be a disciplinary thing with his DUI situation? Dalvin Cook is out this week with a groin. Noah Fant this week is questionable with an ankle. Julian Edelman is, I don't know if he's out or questionable with his knee. And then Leonard Fournette, I don't know if he's still out as well with his ankle. That is going to do it for injury prone. And we are going to be moving on to our Tater Tot hot take. Last week, Jack went 1 of 3. He says that Lev Bell was going to return last week and outscore Emmanuel Sanders. That was incorrect. Miles Sanders had 12.2 points with the touchdown, and Bell only had 6.7 points. Jack, were you disappointed in that, thinking that Lev Bell was actually going to do something?
Nah, I mean, I think him having 67 yards in his comeback, especially with the Jets, was about normal, what I expected. I figured he'd probably get like 50 yards maybe each week, and it's hit or miss with a touchdown. So, I mean, Sanders had the touchdown that kind of inflated his value, but I'm glad that we don't have to deal with Bell on the Jets anymore.
Yes, that is great. Do you want to hit your second bullet point for your Tater Tot hot take last week?
Yeah. I had suggested that Justin Jackson, not Joshua Kelly, was going to be the guy in the Chargers offense. And that was correct. He had 94 total yards after splitting touches, but he was way more efficient than Kelly with 3.8. So that was exciting.
Okay. And then your third point was CH has a dominant top 10 week after 3 straight weeks of 64 or less rushing yards. He guessed that he was going to have 100 yards total plus 2 scores. That was incorrect. He had 80 yards, which isn't a bad day, but he had no touchdowns, which is a problem if you're a CH owner. You are just banging your head against the wall because that draft pick that you took high up to go get CH is just not coming to fruition. This week is quarterback edition for Jack's Tater Tot hot take. Jack, what do you got?
Yeah, I didn't plan for it to be, but then I just started looking at different things I can make, and I was like, all right, we're doing all quarterbacks. So first one I said was that Cousins is going to outperform Matt Ryan in the Vikings game fantasy-wise this week. I think Cousins will end up having to throw more, and Gurley's looked really good on the ground for the Falcons, while Matt Ryan's been kind of So I am expecting Cousins to actually have the better day there, which is definitely a hot take because he has not looked good this season. Number 2, I said that Andy Dalton was going to pick up right where Dak left off, and I'm guessing he has a top 10 quarterback day. They're playing the Cardinals, who are a fast-paced offense, so I think the Cowboys will also get a lot of touches, and he's just got so many weapons there that like he can just drop it off and let some of those guys run the entire way. So excited to see that. And then last one, I think Fitzmagic is going to keep the magic going this week with 20 or more points. I believe they're playing the Jets, so he's looked great so far, and I think he's going to continue to get it done against a terrible defense.
I like that Fitzmagic. Fitzmagic has been amazing this year. We'll see what Andy Dalton does. And Kirk Cousins, we'll see. Let's see if that offensive line can hold up for him. And that'll be it. We are going to be moving on to swimming upstream. Jack, what's going on with swimming upstream?
Yeah, so last week I picked Kirk Cousins. Bit of a disappointment. He only had 14.1, so this was really my first bad pick through 4 weeks. I think the lowest I've had until then was like, I think I had 16, 18, 20 something, and then 30. So I'd been going up and then crashed with Cousins, just like the Vikings. But overall, he was, I think, he brought my total up to 106.85 on the year, which for a 5-week average ended up at like 21.3 points per game. So took a slight dip down from the 23 last week, but still 21 and change for points per game you would take out of most quarterbacks. So as a streaming quarterback, that's solid. Overall ranking, what that means, this mark would be good enough currently for the quarterback 6 on the year with total points. So pretty high numbers there. It's currently better than 12 quarterbacks that are rostered in our league. So again, there's guys to be found out on the waiver wire. Looking ahead for this week, I saw Cousins as the only other really like good option with a good matchup, but I'm not picking him back-to-back weeks. I can't fully trust him again for streaming. So other ones like Wentz versus Baltimore, Nick Foles against Carolina, and Baker versus Pittsburgh all just sounded like terrible matchups. Like they're all really good defenses. So I didn't love picking that. So I am actually going with a quarterback who I was surprised was still on the waiver wires. I think he was picked up and then dropped, but Ryan Tannehill. He's going against Houston. He's averaging 22 points on the year. Houston doesn't have a pass rush, so I think Tannehill will be able to sit back there and just kind of wait. They'll probably focus on Derrick Henry a bit too, so he might have some more efficiencies in the red zone with him passing instead of them running. And he just got done putting up 30 points against Buffalo, who's a pretty decent defense. So Tannehill is just lighting it up versus last year. I saw a tweet somewhere that said like his last 14 starts versus Mahomes' last 14 starts, like showing how good Tannehill's been. With their last 14 combined, like each of them, their last 14 going back to last year, they are both 11-3. Tannehill has 3,602 passing yards versus Mahomes 3,674, so very close. And then the touchdown to interception ratio, Tannehill's actually better with 31-6 versus Mahomes 28-6. And their overall passer rating is Tannehill at 116 versus Mahomes at 102. So like just talking about how good Tannehill's been, he's, you know, better or like slightly better pace currently than Mahomes is. So I think a lot of people kind of overlook that, and he's kind of underrated right now.
I can't believe that Tannehill isn't picked up in our league. Not that I want to be giving fantasy advice out to our league, but to anybody who is looking for general fantasy advice. With COVID this year and with games possibly being shut down, just like we've seen, people like including myself have had to scramble to the waiver wire to pick up the best available quarterback or the best available player at that position that you don't have on your bench. My suggestion for COVID this year, get backup players that you normally wouldn't have, so that when if unfortunately that your matchup does get canceled or postponed, you can quickly pivot to that bench quarterback so that you do not have to go pick up scraps and then drop potentially one of your backup players that you didn't want to drop in the first place. Tangent off. All right, that's going to do it for Swimming Upstream. We're going to move on to Purchase or Pass. Jack, last week there were 5 undefeated teams. At least 2 of those I said purchase, you said pass, and I was correct. In the prime time matchup for running backs, Mike Davis, aka CMC Jr., outscores Todd Gurley head-to-head this week. I purchased that, and so did you, and we were both wrong. But to note, Mike Davis did have 20.9 points. Very, very close. Yes, you are correct. While Todd Gurley had an amazing 21 points. Trevor's cousin, Corey, I believe his name was, for the voicemail, Teddy Two Gloves embarrasses the Falcons. I purchased it. You passed it. The Panthers won. Did they embarrass? Yeah, I'm going to say probably not. No, it wasn't embarrassing. It was nice to see that Teddy got a win. He was able to keep up with a high-flying offense. And Teddy had 20 points on that day, so it was a nice fantasy day. So I wouldn't say embarrassed, but a good showing by Teddy Two Gloves for sure. Jack, what do we got going on this week for Purchase or Pass?
All right, so the first one I'm going to toss out to you. Purchase or Pass that CEH has 16 or more points in his last game without Le'Veon Bell.
All right, so my initial thought on this was pass. Definitely pass. CEH, and I haven't followed it very closely, but from what I've been hearing and what I've been mainly what I've been hearing is that CEH owners are kind of banging their head against the wall right now. He hasn't really been putting up the fantasy production that you've been hoping for, and I'm tap dancing right now so that way I can get some CEH stats here real quick. And but I just purchase or pass? 16 points. My gut tells me pass as of right now, and I'm going to tell you why I want to pass it right now. But 1 second here, we got tapped in. All right, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his game log the
Yeah, well,
last few weeks. Here we go. Week 1 was his best week with 19.8 points. Since then, he has only eclipsed the double-digit mark once, and that was week 3 against Baltimore. So, is he going to have 16 points this week against a decent, what I think is a decent Buffalo defense? No, I'm going to pass on that. He hasn't, New England and Las Vegas, he didn't even reach double-digit points that time. I don't think he's going to have a bounce back week, so I'm going to pass that. CEH does not get 16 points.
yeah, I'm also going to pass. I think the biggest problem that's like holding him off with his point scoring has just been his inability to score. I think he's had 7 red zone touches this year so far, and every single one has not led to a touchdown. So I think it's a big difference if you get a couple of touchdowns. He's only scored once since week 1, or the whole season, which was week 1. So that could change and make a big difference. But I think a lot of people, the narrative right now is talking about CEH is going to, it's his last time to show up and show like he should be the guy, and he's going to light it up this week before Bell comes in and maybe takes, 30, 40% of the touches. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to probably do what he did before, where he's going to get, 15, maybe 18 touches. He'll probably have a respectable game, close to 100 total yards, but unless he scores and also does that, we're not going to see it. So I think he'll just have a respectable game, and then it's going to lead more of a setup of what this offense is going to look like with both running backs next week.
All right, what do we got going on for purchase or pass item number 2?
Number 2, so we're staying the same game here, opposite side of the ball. Devin Singletary, the current RB1 for the Bills, is going to have his highest rushing yard total, which he's only had 71 yards as a match this year through 4 weeks. So will he have his highest rushing yards total of the year against the Chiefs? Purchase or pass?
I'm going to pass on that. Looking at his game log, like you said, he's only reached 71 yards as his highest game. That was a few weeks ago. Other than that, he's just been kind of hovering around the 40 to 50 yard mark. And another thing to note here is that I believe Zach Moss is going to be coming back, so I think that might eat into his usage. So things are not looking good for Devin Singletary right now. So I'm going to pass on Devin Singletary reaching 72 rush yards. Jack, what do you see in that?
I am actually going to purchase it. I think the Chiefs defense has been very good this year, but they've only really been stopping the receivers. So I think their rushing defense is kind of exploitable. And Singletary's had some rough weeks, but he's looked good other weeks. And I think this is probably a week for him to have a chance to blow out. The Bills offense can keep up with the Chiefs. They've been really, really good scoring so far. So I think the Chiefs are going to be more dialed in to stop Josh Allen. And there should be some good rushing lanes open. So I'm going to take the long shot here and say that he gets at least 72.
Right on. All right. And what's going on with our third purchase or pass?
Last one, Kareem Hunt, who's kind of been the RB1 so far with Chubb out, and he's just been dominant even with Chubb in. Purchase or pass that he has under 60 rushing yards this week against Pittsburgh, which is, an elite defense, obviously, but Hunt is an elite talent as well.
When I read this, I read it backwards. I thought Hunt was going to have over 60 rushing yards, and I purchased that. So I am, with the way you worded it,
okay,
I'm going to say pass. And this, I think,
Sorry.
off of volume alone, is going to show that Kareem Hunt should be able to get the job done. He has stepped into the role of an RB1 nicely. And the only thing that I have to worry about is that Dearness Johnson, is he going to see more work this week because he's got another week acclimated into running first, second team reps? So that is my only concern, but I am fairly confident that Kareem Hunt will be able to eclipse 60 rushing yards. What do you got?
I am going to say purchase, so I don't believe he will. I just think the Pittsburgh defense is very, very good up front, and they're going to be focused on that. So I think Hunt will still have a good day, but I think a lot of it's going to come through like check downs and the short passing routes, probably some scores from up close, but I don't see him breaking off any super long, just runs right up the middle kind of thing. So I still expect him to have probably like a top 15 to 20 day because he's Kareem Hunt, but not doing it through the ground for me.
Right on. All right, and now we're going to go to our listener voicemail for purchase or pass. And I hope that I'm clicking on the right one
Excellent.
because he always names it the same one. So let's go.
Don't do any garlic mistakes, clicking the wrong sound.
Oh, good morning there. This is old Johnny McCormick. I'm a cousin of Corey Treverson, who gave you just a little bit of call over there the last week. Say, hey, I got a little purchase or pass for you there. Purchase or pass? You think Justin Herbert will be the offensive rookie of the year over there, huh? Everyone thought it might be a Joe Burrow type coming into the year, but clearly Herbie is playing better. What do you think? Purchase or pass? Justin Herbert, offensive rookie of the year. Let me know. Okay, there. Bye-bye now.
All right. So, this is interesting, and I wish I would have heard this earlier, but I didn't because I would have actually looked it up. There are a ton of rookies out there who are actually seeing the playing field this year. And not just quarterbacks. I'm talking wide receivers that are making splashes. I'm talking running backs that are making splashes. Typically, you would see the rookie of the year go to a quarterback, but I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire has to be in that position. I believe that CeeDee Lamb has to be in that conversation just with how well he's been doing down there in Dallas. It's such a tough one, but I mean, I would have to go with the odds in saying that the quarterback, especially if Justin Herbert turns things around, starts getting those wins out there in Los Angeles, I think he really has the chance to be the rookie of the year. And I think the more time he has with those first team reps, I think that those games are going to come to him. So I'm going to purchase that Justin Herbert will be rookie of the year.
Fair. I like this question. I also like how just like a wide variety of accents this entire family seems to have. All these voicemails, they're all from like different
They're an
ends of the
eclectic
world.
family.
So
They're worldwide.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at this, I just pulled up their stats quick just to kind of look at it on the fly. So obviously not prepared, but I would probably go that way too. I think Herbert has had a little bit more big games so far, and obviously Burrow went to the number one, or as was the number one draft pick for a reason. He went to the worst team, so a little bit less to work with in Cincinnati, just with their offensive line, and I think the Chargers defense is a little bit better too. But I think Herbert's in a probably better position to succeed. And looking at their stats head to head, Herbert actually has a better completion percentage at 68, almost 69% versus Burrow's 65. Burrow has the edge by about 100 yards with 1,300 to almost 1,200, but that's with Herbert playing, literally not even playing week one. So one less game, and he's already caught him. Yards per attempt is Herbert, 8.5 versus 6.3. Touchdown to interception is 9 to 3 versus 6 to 3 in favor of Herbert. And he's got more fantasy points too. So if we're looking fantasy wise, I think if this continues, I think Herbert has a great chance to put up 300 yards and a couple scores every single week. While I think Burrow is going to probably be just as good long term, but just not set up for success around him. So I don't think there's any other rookies that are really in contention. CEH and JT, Jonathan Taylor, haven't really lit it up enough to win as a running back. So I'm pretty sure it'll come down to these two, and I'm going to pick Herbert too. But I feel like with the way it's looked so far this year, I could see CeeDee Lamb being like offensive rookie of the, like, you know how they do like an offensive player and then an MVP. Yep. Like he's going to be the rookie skill position player.
Yeah, thinking about it with CeeDee Lamb, you would almost have to do what Randy Moss did in his 98 season, just completely blowing up the league.
It's so tough for a running back or a receiver to win.
Correct, because you have to, as that player, you have to be that dynamic player, that game-changing player, and that usually comes at the quarterback position. So yes, I agree. That is why it's so tough. for a running back or wide receiver to get that honor. We're going to be moving on to our water bet board. Jack, what do you have for some water bets?
Yeah, so I kind of just keep this running throughout the week, and if I think of anything, I put it down and just see what you think. So a lot of them haven't stuck, but if there's any that we really disagree with on each other, one way or the other, we can add them in. So watching the, I've been a little biased watching the Seahawks torch the Vikings through the air, but I was thinking how Metcalf has just looked amazing this year, and a lot of people are talking about like he's in contention for like a first round pick if you were doing a dynasty draft today. So my guess is that throughout the rest of the year, I think Metcalf and Ridley are both in the top 3 right now, but I think Metcalf is going to outscore Ridley as a wide receiver through the rest of the year.
The only thing that bothers, excuse me, the only thing that concerns me in this situation is that Julio. How does Julio hold up this season? With Julio in, I feel like Calvin Ridley becomes way more dangerous. With that, I'm gonna go with it. I'll take Ridley
Fair.
if you want to take Metcalf.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, my thought is Ridley was the wide receiver 1 overall through 2 or 3 weeks, and that was with Julio playing in the beginning. So I think he can get done. But I just like Metcalf better. I think he's more of like an athletic specimen. I think he's a better deep ball player, and he can go up and get it. So I am going to roll with Metcalf, and we'll check through the end of the year there.
I feel bad for Tyler Lockett.
So one more on the board.
Because DK Metcalf has just come out of nowhere. Like, I was really high on Lockett this year, and I'm not saying that he's been bad, but DK Metcalf has just rocked Tyler Lockett fantasy owners worlds this year. So frustrating.
I think they're going to have some bounce back and forth weeks. I think Russell's good enough to spread it around to both. But yeah, I agree. Metcalf's become the 1A there. I still expect Lockett to probably finish top 15 overall. And part of me is hoping that because I traded for him in Dynasty before the year started. So I'm really banking on him being good. But we'll see.
All right.
Number 2, I wanted to toss out. This is more of like our league related.
Sure.
But I am still standing by, even though Katie's team lost like one of the last couple of weeks, close games. She's 2-3 right now and in 8th place. I still stand by that her team's going to make the playoffs because her roster construction with the 3 running backs and some decent wide receivers and then Lamar is too good to me. So I'm still very confident that she will be in the playoffs come end of the season.
I'm thinking.
Okay. I can go to the 3rd one if you want to think.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. I can't remember if we talked about this last week, but I had tossed out who has more wins by the end of the season, Kirk Cousins or Joe Burrow. And I mean, that includes, somebody getting benched possibly, not that I think either of them will, but you had mentioned the Vikings winning less than 4 games. And this is kind of a playoff of that to see who gets more wins. They're both at 1.
I would have to say Kirk Cousins. I mean, if you just look at the team makeup around, Kirk and then the team makeup around Burrow, and I would have to say that the Vikings are a more complete team, even though our defense is completely trash. I'm gonna have, if I was gonna do this, I'd want to take the side of Kirk. I don't know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to double down on thinking the Vikings will win more than 4 games or more. So I think it'll be tough for Burrow to get much more than 3, 4, 5. And I think the Vikings can probably keep up with that.
All right. Well, if we're going to take the same side, I don't think it's going to work. We'll talk about it and see if we can come up with something.
Yeah, we'll take that one off then.
Okay, right on.
Did you decide on Katie's?
I'm going to stand pat on Katie's for now. Let's just hold it there. I want to see what this week happens with. Because there's a lot of big injuries and bye weeks have started, and I kind of want to see how that's going to shake out. So we will revisit that one next week. Let's just quickly go over our old water bets real quick. We don't have to deep dive into it, and then we can get into our final third of our show.
Yeah, so like I just mentioned, we have one on the board with whether the Vikings win 4 games or not. I said yes, 4 more. Walter said no. As far as the head coaches, I believe Bill O'Brien was fired first, but we had guessed different head coaches where I said Dan Quinn and you said Mike Zimmer. Zimmer's still going and Dan Quinn's fired. So that one's another one on the board. We have one running with CMC, whether he'll finish as an RB1 by the end of the year. You said yes. I said no. he was by far and away the RB1 through 2 weeks, but now he's at RB26, obviously with sitting out. So the fact that he's still almost an RB2 while not playing for 3 weeks is insane. We'll see kind of when he comes back and how that works out. And then our secret season-long water bet that we always talk about without talking about is still at the moment you winning. So we'll see if that changes. Lastly, we have Benny Snell versus James Conner when both play. Last week, Conner had a 12.3 and Snell had a 1.9. So we started this week 2, and the totals are now Conner at 51.3 points to Snell at 1.1.
Ouch. All right. Right on. All right. We're going to be moving into our Victoria's Secret news and notes. Side bets. It is week 5. Actually, last week was week 5. The Greg Jennings, he put his team on his back, and that was Josh. He had the highest scoring player of the week with Patrick Mahomes. He had 29.7 points. Jack would like to know, haven't you won enough this year, and now you're taking our money? Week 6 this week is Sack Up, which is the team who has the defense with the most sacks. If it is a tie, the tiebreaker will be the most points between the defenses. Jack, do you have a guess on that?
Yeah, we'll get into it a little bit with the matchups, but my guess is going to be Ryan. He's got Baltimore, who's an elite defense, going against an Eagles offensive line that's just decimated. So I think they'll have a lot of pressure on Wentz.
Right on. I've got one thing that I just added last minute. I didn't write it in the notes, but I have it on my sheet here. I wrote it in with the pen. I just want to give a shout out to Josh. Josh, 2 weeks ago in week 4, at the end of week 4, he sent out a fantasy report for our fantasy league, and it is very thorough. It is an awesome PDF. It's like 10 pages. It's awesome. It has all these different metrics. Some metrics I don't know if really are credible, but I mean, it's fun to look at nonetheless. Numbers are fun to look at. So I'm going to shout out to Joshua Allen Bunker Incorporated. I believe that is the stats and info company that Josh operates over there in the Hidden Oaks universe over there, and he is just spilling over into the Victoria's Secret a little bit with those wonderful stats. So thank you, Josh. Major props to you on that. Let's move into our Jack of all trades. Jack, let's quickly go over some trades. What's going on?
Yes, sir. So we finally had some more. Last week was a down week with no trades, so I'm really happy we have 2. Going over them quick, Foster traded Kenny Galladay to Alex for Melvin Gordon and Terry McLaurin. I'll talk about this one, and then I'll toss the second one to you. I was surprised to see a blockbuster move here for both teams. This is some high-end names with RB wide receiver 2s or better. So looking at it in a tunnel, which I tried to do without thinking about the second trade yet because this one broke first. I think I like Foster actually winning this trade more, but it's great for both teams. I just think that Foster getting the best player in the deal out of the 3 is a win. Melvin Gordon's been great, but he's had Lindsey out the entire year, who comes back this week. So that'll eat into a little bit of his carries, and Foster already has pretty good running backs, so I don't think he necessarily needed Melvin Gordon, but now he pairs Kenny Galladay with Adam Thielen, who are like 2 easy top 10 receivers. So I said it before the season started, he was my pick, but with the moves he's made, I just don't think Foster can be stopped. His team, at least starters, looks so good on paper. Overall, I gave Foster an A on this one. You added a wide receiver 1 plus a receiver who's way more consistent than Terry McLaurin, while you didn't really lose anything starter quality. Like, I think you can get by with the running backs you have with Derrick Henry, Montgomery, and then a flex toss in. So your wide receivers improved greatly. And then on Alex's side, I still gave him a B+. I think it's solid. I mean, he loses his top wide receiver, but he gained 2 solid startable pieces. I was a little bit surprised at first with him trading for Melvin Gordon, but we'll get into that in a second. But he already had really good running back depth with Kareem Hunt, Antonio Gibson, Darrell Henderson, and Singletary. So I was surprised with that, but he does also have really deep receivers, so it made sense. So that's my thoughts on the first one. I don't know if you want to take the second one at all.
All right, so I think it must have been Wednesday. I think it was Wednesday, Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't remember when the trade went down, actually. Alex has been texting me. He's really been hot on Stephon Diggs, and he's wanted him. And I've been talking to him, telling him that I need a good running back. I need a running back that I can throw into my start slot. I'd even piece some stuff together to be able to get that. And he threw out a name, Melvin Gordon. I said, okay. So I thought about it, and I'm like, well, I don't want to give up all of my. I don't want to give up all of my. I have depth. I have depth at some of my positions, and I don't want to give up a ton of depth. So I looked at it like I looked at with trading for Travis Kelce. Let's take a big name player, and let's just see if I can get a 1-for-1 trade. So I I presented Mike Evans straight up for Melvin Gordon, and he's like, deal. So Foster's trade hadn't gone through yet. So Alex and I, we were texting back and forth. We made, you saw the picture, the text message, that
Mhm.
we agree to this trade, and this trade is binding. And if any of us backs out, there'll be repercussions, and Tyler's going to have to uh, manually move the rosters. Everything's great. I'm feeling good. Okay, I lost Mike Evans. Yeah, he has the potential for hauling in 15 to 20 points a week, no problem. But I'm getting a starting running back that Denver paid money for. So I'm even though it is a timeshare with Philip Lindsay, I was still confident that I could have some competency at my running back 2 position. Wednesday or Thursday morning rolls around. I think it was Wednesday morning, and the Fantasy Life update came out that Melvin Gordon had a DUI, and he was traveling at least 25 to 39 miles an hour over the speed limit, which is, I believe, an extra charge in itself. I'm not a Denver law aficionado, but that is,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming that is an extra charge tacked on. So we are unsure of if Melvin Gordon's going to play this weekend, and then what is going to happen in the NFL. What kind of suspension is the NFL going to hand down? So potentially I could be out 3 to 4 weeks without my running back. So good trade, yes. Before the DUI, after the trade, I feel like I'm kicking myself a little bit, but I feel like I have enough depth on my team to be able to just mosey along, and let's let these players come back, and then my team be at full strength, and I can continue doing what I've been doing all season. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. I think hindsight 2020. I mean, you didn't obviously know when you guys did trade. I think it made a lot of sense. And like you said a lot of times before, running backs are more valuable. So for any team, let alone your team with running back depth problems right now, I think that made a lot of sense. I mean, you're giving Mike Evans, who he looks great in the year, but he kind of does that thing Mike Evans does, who he gets a lot of points, but it's like inconsistent or not dependable. I mean, the dude's got like 6 or something touchdowns. He scored every single game, and that's what he's at. So, I mean, a lot of it's touchdown inflated. So I think you capitalize on the value well. The only thing that sucks is, like you said, if he's out, if they bench him as a team this week and then he's out 2 or 3 weeks, let's say, you basically have him out for the entire time that you're waiting for McCaffrey to come back anyway, which is probably why you made the trade. They get help at that time. So, that being said, if you can find a way to win these few weeks and then they both come back, I think if you make the playoffs, your team is really scary because you've got, 2 solid running backs and your receivers are still good. Overall, just really quickly notes, I gave Alex an A after seeing this trade because just like to be able to piece 2 trades together back to back with different people that make sense for your team is really tough to do. So credit to him on like trading for what didn't make sense to me at the time and then made sense once he had the other trade in play. Basically giving away Galladay for Mike Evans and Warren is solid when you look at it that way. Like he just loaded up on his receivers and didn't really take a huge step down with his number 1. So that combined with his running backs, he's the same thing. He's another scary team that like there's a lot of people that if they can find a way to make the playoffs are all pretty scary looking. With you, I would have given you an A- because like I said, it made sense with your team and you still got Diggs and Woods. So your receivers are fine. But it probably drops to a B just with the unknown of the DUI. So kind of just waiting to see. But like I said, if you can find a way to hang on, you'll be okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully Melvin Gordon plays this weekend. If he does play this weekend, I would assume that the next couple weekends are going to be bench weekends because he's going to be suspended. So I mean, he definitely violated the NFL player conduct policy, and they will be handing down a suspension for him sooner or later. All right, we're going to be moving into our next segment here. Just got to find my mouse and
say my name.
All right, so Jack, what's going on with Say My Name this week?
We're still at 9 out of 12. Nothing's changed. So the three teams that haven't done it, you're making me sad. It's week 6. So come on now. Alex changed his to Control Chanel Delete, which I love. I think that was really clever. So I don't know if you got it off of Twitter, but I'm a big fan. That was nice. And then I changed mine too, but I don't want to say what it is because I feel like I'd be cheating. So we'll talk about it later in the matchups.
Okay, moving on. We've got our noteworthy add and drops. Jay spent $20 on LaMichael Perrine. He is starting him. Jordan spent money on Travis Fulgham. Foster spent $5 on Austin Hooper. Ryan picked up Ryan Fitzpatrick for $2, which is an awesome pickup. Jack picked up Frank Gore for $2. Foster picked up Tim Patrick for $0, and Cassie picked up Andy Dalton for $0. Hopefully, Andy Dalton can help her team out. I'm just going to keep moving forward. We're going to be moving into our victory formation here. So we are going to be transferring over to this. And that should be right. Okay. Bam. Okay. Jack, I'm going to start it off here. We've got Ben versus Katie here in our matchups. Katie beat Ben 94.2 to Ben's 87.2. And what did you see in this game here real quick?
Yeah, just a few quick notes for each team. Lamar had another kind of down week by his standards, so kind of concerning whether Katie should be worried about that one or not. But the rest of her team was so balanced, like it is every week, with 7 out of our 9 scorers or starters scoring 10 or more points. So just consistency. She's got a very high floor for a team. Ben had a down week, like I said, coming into it. I mean, he had Aaron Jones on bye and Nick Chubb on IR, so not ideal with his starters, but his kicker carried him with 22 points. So I think the rest of his team was actually a lower scoring team than what looks like on paper. Both of them had 40 or more points on their bench, though, which, it sucks, but I don't think a lot of these guys would have been people they would have both started, obviously, anyways. So no shade at them, but it just shows that both these teams are pretty deep, so they should be great the rest of the way.
Quick player highlights for this matchup. Deshaun Watson for Ben had 24.86 points. Alexander Madison had 13.6. DK Metcalf had 21.3. And like you said, his kicker, I don't know what his first name, but Sanders from Miami, 22 points. Moving over to Katie's side real quick. Alvin Kamara had 11.9. Jonathan Taylor had 13.4. DJ Moore had 15.3. Will Fuller had 11.8. David Johnson had 10.3. And her defense, the Rams, got her 11 points. We are going to be moving on to our next matchup here. Okay. And that would be Tyler versus Josh. Tyler got destroyed by Josh, 85.88 to Josh's 118.2. Over on Tyler's side, Russell Wilson had 24.48. Dalvin Cook had 14.9. Chris Carson had 13.9. His Indy defense had 11, and Justin Tucker had 10. Over on Josh's side, Pat Mahomes had 29.7. Zeke Elliott had 22.5. Ronald Jones had 12.5. DeAndre Hopkins had 19.1. Mark Andrews 11.6, and his kicker Will Lutz 15 points. Jack, what did you see in this matchup?
Yeah, this one was a lot less close than I thought it would be for two solid top end teams. On Tyler's side, Dalvin Cook was great, but got hurt, so I think he would have done a lot more for you. Obviously, playing the second half because he was on fire. Tyler's wide receivers letting him down once again. Gallup and then Zacharias, I think, from Atlanta, just doing nothing. On Josh's side, I just don't know how he's going to get stopped with Mahomes, Zeke, and Hopkins. They all have such a high floor and are consistently scoring great. So Josh's team looked great again this week.
All right, we're moving on. Ben versus Jordan. Ben lost to Jordan 103.06 to Jordan's 108.46. Ben Roethlisberger for Jordan had 21.36. Miles Sanders had 21.9. Myles Gaskin had 15.1. Calvin Ridley, 13.6. Darren Waller, 10.8. And his kicker, Blankenship, 11. Over on Ben's side of the ball, Justin Herbert had 27.36 points. Raheem Mostert, 11.9. Emmanuel Sanders, 12.2. Malcolm Brown, 13.8. And his kicker, Graham Gano, had 20 points. Jack, what did you see in this matchup?
Jay almost got it done. He almost had his first win, which is impressive because it was his best score of the year by far. It was only his second score of the year over 75 points. So this kind of came out of nowhere. Jordan's team is really tough to figure out for me. He was a preseason favorite, and then I kind of think he fell off the wagon after like week 2. But now he dominates with 108 points. So kind of tough to gauge what Jordan's team's going to do. It could go off every single week. And then curious to see if Jay's going to have more wins by the end of the year, or if Josh is going to have more losses. So we can always come back to that later. But Jay is looking like he might actually get a win or two off this year.
Right on. Moving on, we have Ryan versus Alex. Alex lost to Ryan, 89.3 for Alex to Ryan's 102.44. Gardner Minshew for Ryan had 19.84 points. Todd Gurley had 21, and his Baltimore defense had 13, and Greg Zerline had 14. Over on Alex's side, Kyler Murray had 26.3, Kareem Hunt had 15.3, CeeDee Lamb had 12.4, and his kicker Young Ho Koo had 13. What did you see in this matchup?
Yeah, Ryan's team with another surprising win by double digits. Todd Gurley looked like an RB1 over his other running back. His defense and kicker got him 23 and 14 points, so that was a really dominating showing. And then Alex's team underwhelming, but his starters look really good on paper, so I think his running back's letting him down this week, but I think they should continue to step up future weeks here.
Right on. All right, we are going to be moving on here to Cassie versus. Actually, no, we're not going to be doing that one. Oh, we can. That's fine. We'll do Cassie versus Jack. Jack, you had 62.46 to Cassie 72.94. It was the low scoring matchup of the week. Dak Prescott for Cassie went out with 12.44. That's tough. Kenyon Drake had a nice bounce back week with 12.2. James Conner had 12.3. Tyreek Hill had 15.3. And over on your side, Josh Jacobs had 20.5 points. And I mean, you had a couple 9s in there, but I mean, no double-digit players. That's just a rough week for you, Jack. Jack,
Yeah,
what did you
that's all
see
to
in the
talk
matchup?
about.
Okay, that's all you want to talk about? All right, no big deal. Well,
Yeah.
okay, we're going to move on to our last matchup, which is me versus Foster. It was a nail-biter of a matchup. Walters just barely beat out Foster 103.52 to Foster's 103.12. 0.4 points. That is frustrating. Mike Davis had 20.9 points. Mike Evans had 10.1. Robert Woods had 13.3. Travis Kelce had 16.8. And Stephon Diggs had 10.6. And my kicker, Dan Carlson, had 10 points. Over on Foster's side, Teddy Bridgewater had 20.82 points. Derrick Henry had 18.3. Devonta Freeman had 14.7. Adam Thielen, 20 points. And then his Cleveland defense had 13. Jack, what did you see out of this matchup?
Yeah, super good nail biter. Both teams that looked like they're heating up and really solid overall. Teddy B outscoring the QB1 on the year for you with Josh Allen was huge for Foster, and then Thielen dominating, but Scotty Miller ended up costing him the win with 0 points. And then Mike Davis, my shout out for pickup of the year, continues for you, and Kelce looking like a great trade for you as well. So solid win here.
Right on. We are going to be moving into our undefeated club, and that is Josh still. He is at 5-0. We are begging for anybody to please take him down. He needs to go down. We are going to be moving into our standings. I think people should be able to see that. We have Josh at 5-0. We have myself at 3-2. Tyler at 3-2. Ben at 3-2. Ryan at 3-2. Jordan at 3-2. Foster at 2-3. Katie at 2-3. Jack, you're at 2-3. Cassie and Alex both at 2-3 as well. And then Jay is at 0-5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The teams that are 3-2 and plus Josh, those are all of our playoff teams as of right now. But the playoffs do not start yet, so no big deal. We're going to be moving into our weekly pick'em. This last week, we had Ryan keep holding on to the lead. He's at 27 points. Cassie's got 25 points. She is tied with Katie, who also has 25 points. Jack, you're right on their heels with 24. Jordan has 21. Alex has 19. Tyler has 18. And I'm at the bottom with 14. We are going to be going into our matchup previews right now. So let's get her started here. I'm going to just go up here. Pick on you. Okay. Doop, 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 doop. Okay. All right, we're going to be starting out with Tyler versus Jay. Tyler is the 3-point underdog in this one, so Jay is the favorite, which is weird. Jay might get his first win. He's got the advantage at quarterback. He's got the advantage at running back 1 and 2 and wide receiver. Tyler has the advantage at wide receiver 2, tight end, and his flex. Jay is a 3-point favorite. Jack, who do you like in this?
I think, going to go with Jay, not to keep picking against Tyler, but Tyler has Russell Wilson and Chris Carson on bye, and Delvin Cook hurt, so his top 3 guys being forced to start Gardner Minshew, Tony Pollard, and DeAndre Swift as his running backs just looks gross. And then Jay finally gets mostly healthy with his starters with Chris Godwin and Raheem Mostert both back, so could look like a whole new team, and he just put up 100 points last week, so we will see.
Right on. To note, the players who were picked in this matchup for Jay versus Tyler, there were 6 players in our 6 out of 8 people who picked Jay. That would be Alex, Cassie, yourself, Jordan, Tyler, and myself. So Katie and Ryan both picked Tyler. Jay is Alex's. Oh, here we go.
Stone Cold Lock of the Century.
Fun fact, he is also my Stone Cold Lock of the Week as well this week. Jay, go out and get me a win, please. All right, we are going to be moving on to our next matchup, which is going to consist of Katie versus Jordan. Katie, this picture here, I did some editing to it. So just to note that since Katie didn't have her lineup set this morning when I took these screenshots, I just filled in her best players to field her a team of 9. So the players that I put in for her were Chase Edmonds and Noah Fant. So moving on with these additions, Jordan right now for this game is the 3.7 favorite. Things might change in actually what happens in fantasy. You never know. But so just moving on, Katie has the advantage at quarterback. Jordan has the advantage at running backs 1 and 2 plus the wide receiver 1. Katie then has the advantage at wide receiver 2, tight end, and her flex position. They are both projected around the 100-point mark. Katie being projected at 101.81. Jack, what do you see in this?
Yeah, I was worried if Katie was going to set her lineup in time or not. I'm sure she'll be fine, but I don't love her bench options for the bye weeks and the people injured right now. So that's going to hurt her a little bit. I think for Jordan, though, Miles Sanders is going to get shut down against Pittsburgh, but Gaskin should be able to make up for it against New York this week. And then I think Calvin Ridley is probably going to regain his wide receiver 1 status versus the Vikings. While Katie should have a good breakout week finally for Jonathan Taylor, but I don't think it's going to be enough. So I'm picking Jordan.
Right on. This week there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And those 5 people who picked Jordan were Cassie, Jack, Katie, Ryan, and Tyler all picked Jordan. And then I picked Katie. Jordan picked Katie, and Alex also picked Katie. And we are going to be moving on here. All right. Our next matchup is going to be Josh versus Ben. Josh is the 15-point favorite here, even though I looked at it, I'm like, Ben doesn't have any players on bye, so he's really going to be struggling at running back. Josh has, like I said, he has the 15.4 advantage. He has the advantage at quarterback, running back 1, wide receiver 1 and 2, tight end, and flex. So it's going to be a hard matchup for Ben. Jack, what do you see?
Battle of the heavyweights. These are 2 of the top teams. I think Ben gets all of his starters back this week, minus Chubb, and is going to look a lot stronger. He's got Madison's to step in for Chubb with Delvin Cook out, so that should be a great week. Justin Jefferson and Madison on the same team in the same game for Ben should be interesting, but I mean, they're going against Atlanta, so should be great. I love Josh's running backs and his flex matchup this week, plus Hopkins versus Dallas. So somehow he just has great matchups every single week. Sadly, I think it's going to be another easy win for Josh. No disrespect to Ben, but Josh should get this one done, and Ben will still stay as like a top 4 favorite for me.
Yeah, a lot of people think that way too. 7 out of the 8 players took Josh, meaning Alex is the only one who took Ben. To note, Jordan and Tyler both picked Josh.
Stone cold lock of the century.
On the way.
All right, we're going to be moving on here. We have Alex versus Foster. Foster is the 9.5-point favorite here. He has the advantage at running back 1, 2, wide receiver 1 and 2, tight end, and flex. So Alex's quarterback is the only one who's got the advantage according to ESPN. So it looks like it could be a tough matchup for Alex. What do you see in this matchup?
I see that it's going to be a really high scoring matchup between the two of them. They just made a trade with each other, so it'll be interesting with the kind of the new teams here. I think Foster's wide receivers are going to dominate, and his running backs will probably win the battle too. So while Alex has some advantages, like at QB, I think it'll end up being closer than people think. But I think Foster's team is just too balanced. Like I haven't even mentioned Kittle yet, and I still love his team. So I'm going Foster this week.
Right on. 6 out of 8 teams picked Foster, so the 2 players that picked Alex to win were Jordan and Katie. I don't believe there were any stone cold locks for this one, so we will be moving on here. The next one we got is going to be me versus Cassie. I am the 7.2 favorite, 7.2 point favorite right now. I have the advantage at quarterback, running back 1, wide receiver 2, and tight end. So Cassie has the advantage at running back 2, wide receiver 1, and flex. Jack, what do you see in this matchup?
I think it's going to be 2 very different teams. I mean, you got your win scoring a ton, barely winning, while Cassie got her win playing against the lowest score of the week last week. So Cassie having to start Andy Dalton really hurts her. But I think Keenan Allen should bounce back well against Kansas City. Big question for you, like you talked about before, is if Melvin Gordon plays. And then I like seeing the double tight end start for you. So I am picking you this week.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough matchup. Double tight ends make me really, really nervous. I'm going to be wavering between Darius Slayton and Jonnu Smith. I just got to be confident in the fact that Jonnu Smith has been seeing the targets from Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee, so hopefully that will keep up this week. People who picked our matchups, Alex, Cassie, and Ryan picked Cassie. So Jack, Jordan, Katie, Tyler, and myself, we all picked me. There are no stone cold locks for this matchup, so we can move on to our final matchup, which is Jack versus Ryan. Let's see here. I remember how I did this. Oh yeah, Jack, you're on the left. You have the advantage at quarterback. You have the advantage at wide receiver 2 and tight end. So Ryan's got running back 1, 2, wide receiver 1, and it's flex. What do you see in your matchup?
I don't feel great about this matchup or my team. I literally scored less than half of my points this past week compared to 2 weeks ago when I had like 150 plus. So big letdown. I've got Jacobs on bye this week, which is my number 1 pick. And then Ertz and Matt Ryan both are disappointing. I am moving on from both of them. So they are both benched this week. And I'm starting Brady and Eric Ebron instead to shake things up. But Ryan gets Devonta Adams back. Plus he has Gurley, Fitz, and Crowder, who are all doing great. So I am actually picking Ryan against myself.
Right on. Let's see here. I gotta go back to this. All right. So, for your matchup here, Jack versus Ryan, there are 1, 2, 3 people who picked you. So Alex, Jordan, and Katie picked you. So, there are. Ryan picked himself to be the
Stone cold lock of the century.
On the way.
All right, cool. So, yeah, I'm picking Ryan in this matchup, Jack. We'll see how that goes. Moving on here. I hope I got this all right. Yeah, you can kind of see it. This is the board on how it looks. When I took the screenshot, Katie hadn't sent me her picks, but she did send me her picks during the pod, so I quickly entered those in, but wasn't able to get them up on the picture, so apologize about that. To note, we have our weekly side bets, which is the defense scoring the most sacks, and we have all of those listed on the side there that you can see there over there completely on the right-hand side. For Katie, she picked Tyler to be the weekly side bet winner as well. So I believe that is going to do it for our weekly matchups. And we're going to transition back on over to here. Jack, what's going on with our Dynasty League? Deflate these balls.
Dynasty League. I am 4-1 and somehow in
Wow.
first place this week, which is insane. Josh and I are the only ones at 4-1, so shout out to Josh too. I won a low-scoring nail biter that took it into Tuesday night with 83.6 over 77.9 over Jay Johnson. Nobody was really exciting on my end, but Wentz, Mixon, Ronald Jones, Diggs all did their job, while Ertz shit the bed again, and I'm benching him in this league as well for Gesicki. Bell's on my team, so waiting to see what he kind of does with the Chiefs. That could be interesting going forward. And this week I play Dave Stousen, who's 3-2, and it should be close, but he's starting Jimmy G, so I have a good chance, I think. Yeah.
Sorry about that. My headphones came unplugged. Oh, Jack, are you there? Jack, hello? Jack Vickers? What happened to Jack? Okay. Well, with that, I'm going to just continue on with my Dynasty League. I won a nail biter over Tyler. And it wasn't pretty. It was, I mean, Tyler, he had Dak go out. It was tough, but Mike Evans, Andrews, Mark Andrews, and DJ Moore did pretty well. So I was happy with it. I'm doing okay in the dynasty. We'll see how it goes. I feel bad for Tyler, but losing Dak is tough. So Tyler, sorry man, that sucks. According to the notes here, Jack is still in first place in the Hood DFS play along. I don't know why we don't have the Guillotine League. Braden lost in that one, so sorry, Braden. I don't have any of the notes or anything like that. We are going to actually just start moving into our outro. I want to thank everybody here for listening. I see that we had another viewer pop up, but we're actually going to be wrapping up our show right now, so thank you very much for tuning in. It's been a great week. Let's hope that COVID does not ruin football this weekend. We do not want to see any games moved back, so there is that. Thank you very much, everybody. Check out us at Victorious POD, the Victorious POD. You can check us out at anchor.fm/thevictoriouspod. Twitter, we're at Victorious POD. So thanks a lot, and have a great weekend.